They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I used to believe that too. Then I discovered something far more satisfying. Revenge is best served in a luxury ballroom packed with hundreds of wealthy guests, just minutes before the bride and groom are thrown out with nowhere to go. My name is Clara. 5 years ago, the man I loved stole my savings, destroyed my business, and disappeared with another woman. He left me bankrupt, heartbroken, and convinced I would never recover. Today, I own the Meridian Crest Resort, one of the most exclusive luxury destinations on Florida's coastline. And the man who ruined my life had just booked my entire resort for his dream wedding. The best part? He had absolutely no idea who owned the property. By the end of the night, he would. It all started on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was reviewing financial reports when my events manager rushed into my office, clutching a thick contract. Her face had turned almost white. "Clara," she said, struggling to catch her breath, "we've just confirmed a full weekend resort be-out. It's one of the biggest bookings we've ever received." I smiled at first. Then I looked at the contract. The groom's name was Western Gable. For a moment, the room felt completely silent. 5 years earlier, Weston wasn't just my fiancé. He was my business partner. While I trusted him with everything I owned, he quietly emptied our joint accounts, sabotaged our first company, and disappeared with a younger coworker, leaving me to face bankruptcy alone. I lost my business. I lost my home. I lost nearly every friend who believed his version of the story. While Weston enjoyed a new life, I spent years working 18-hour days, taking impossible risks, and rebuilding myself from nothing. Every brick of Meridian Crest represented a night I refused to give up. To Weston, I was probably just another forgotten chapter. To me, he was about to become the biggest mistake of his own life. My manager looked at me carefully. Should I reject the booking? I slowly closed the contract. A smile spread across my face. No, I prove it. Treat them like royalty. Send our finest champagne to their suite. She stared at me in confusion. I simply replied, "Trust me," because there was one thing Weston didn't know. Every contract signed at Meridian Crest contained a clause that allowed us to cancel any event immediately if payment was made through fraudulent or misrepresented funds. No refunds, no exceptions. All I had to do was wait for the perfect moment. 2 weeks later, Weston and his fiancée, Savannah, arrived for their final venue walkthrough. I wasn't about to reveal myself early. Instead, I traded my business suit for a simple staff uniform, clipped on a logistics coordinator name tag, tied my hair back, and blended in with the event team. If Weston looked at me, he didn't recognize me, or maybe he never truly saw me in the first place. He walked through the lobby talking loudly on his phone, barking orders at someone on the other end. "Figure it out," he snapped. "I don't care what it costs." Some things never changed. But Savannah, she was even worse. Within minutes, she was criticizing everything she saw. "The flowers look cheap. The lighting is too warm. The marble floor isn't polished enough." Nothing satisfied her. Our staff responded with patience and professionalism, but every polite answer only seemed to make her more demanding. Then we reached the ballroom. The room was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Fresh white roses lined every table, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the ocean. Most couples would have been speechless. Savannah frowned. "I asked for elegance," she said. "This looks ordinary." My event manager calmly assured her that every detail could still be adjusted. Instead of appreciating the effort, Savannah rolled her eyes. As we demonstrated the formal table setting, she suddenly picked up a silver fork and slammed it onto the table hard enough to make nearby guests jump. "What is all this?" she demanded. I stepped forward politely. "It's a 5-course dinner, ma'am. Each piece of cutlery is placed according to the order of service." She looked at me as if I had insulted her. "I don't want all these forks. For a formal dinner, they're necessary," I explained. Removing them would disrupt the kitchen's timing and the guest experience. Her expression turned icy. She walked until she was only inches away from me. "Listen carefully," she whispered. "You're not paid to think. You're paid to move tables and stay quiet. If I hear one more suggestion from you, I'll make sure you're unemployed before sunset." The ballroom fell silent. Several staff members looked down at the floor. Weston glanced over for only a second. Then he shrugged. "She's planning the wedding," he said with a laugh. "Just give her whatever she wants." That sentence told me everything. 5 years had changed my life. It hadn't changed his character. I apologized professionally, made a note on my clipboard, and stepped back. They continued inspecting the ballroom, criticizing flowers, chairs, candles, and even the temperature of the sparkling water. Every complaint strengthened my resolve. After they finally left, I walked straight to my attorney's office. I placed the payment documents on his desk. "I want to know exactly where this money came from." He studied the paperwork for nearly an hour before looking up. "You were right to question it. The deposit wasn't paid from Western Gable's personal account." "So whose account was it?" He slid the documents toward me. "It came from his company." My stomach tightened. The payment had been approved by the company's chief accountant under the description, "Corporate Executive Leadership Retreat." Not a wedding, not a private event. A corporate retreat. My attorney looked at me seriously. "If this is intentional, it's corporate fraud. We can cancel everything today." I stared at the documents for a long moment. Then I slowly shook my head. "No. If we cancel now, they'll book another venue. I've waited 5 years. I can wait a few more days." Because I wasn't interested in ruining their reservation. I wanted the truth to find them in front of every single guest. Wedding day arrived beneath a blazing Florida sun. By noon, Meridian Crest looked like something out of a magazine. White roses lined the marble entrance. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above the ballroom. A string quartet played softly as luxury cars rolled through the front gates. Nearly every guest was someone important: investors, business executives, local politicians, and social media personalities. It was exactly the kind of audience Western wanted. He loved being admired. From the security office, I watched the live camera feeds. Westorn stood near the bar with a glass of expensive scotch, laughing loudly as if he owned the world. Savannah floated through the ballroom, posing for photographers, making sure every camera found her best angle. Neither of them noticed me quietly walking among the staff. To them, I was invisible. The ceremony ended without a problem. Guests applauded. Champagne flowed. The reception was about to begin. Then Savannah spotted one of our servers carrying trays of handcrafted appetizers. She stopped him with a wave of her hand. "No," she said sharply. "These don't look expensive enough." The young waiter froze. Before he could answer, Savannah grabbed the silver tray from his hands and shoved it toward a trash bin. "Throw 'em away. They're embarrassing." The room fell silent. The waiter looked helpless. Weston glanced over, laughed, and casually added, "She's right. Just toss them." The server looked at me. I simply nodded for him to step back. Then I folded the white linen napkin in my hands and quietly spoke into my headset. "Emergency Protocol 0. No one around me understood what those words meant, but my management team did. Within seconds, every department began moving. The executive chef approached me first. "Are you sure?" I smiled. "Absolutely. Close the kitchen." Every oven was turned off. Every order was canceled. Instead of serving people who had treated them with disrespect all week, my staff gathered in the private dining room to enjoy the perfectly prepared steaks, lobster, and desserts themselves. For the first time all day, they sat down, they laughed, they ate. Next, engineering received its instructions. The ballroom's climate system quietly shut down. Outside, Florida's summer humidity was relentless. Within minutes, the cool air disappeared. Guests began fanning themselves with dinner menus. Men loosened their ties. Women searched for anything that resembled a breeze. Savannah, however, remained completely focused on herself. She climbed onto the stage and accepted a microphone. Thank you all for celebrating the beginning of our incredible future. Together, she announced with a smile. She started talking about success, luxury, status, and Weston's bright corporate future. She never noticed me walking toward the main electrical control room. I rested my hand on the master switch. Then I looked at my operations manager. He gave a small nod. I flipped the switch. The chandeliers vanished. The music stopped instantly. The microphone died in Savannah's hand. The ballroom fell into complete darkness. Confused voices echoed across the room. Someone dropped a wine glass. Another guest shouted for security. Phones lit up as hundreds of people tried to understand what had happened. Panic spread faster than the darkness itself, exactly as planned. Meanwhile, my manager calmly approached the head table. He leaned down beside Weston and spoke quietly enough that only he could hear. "Sir, the owner of Meridian Crest would like to speak with you." Weston slammed his drink onto the table. "This place is a disaster," he growled. "I'm going to sue every person who works here." He stormed through the ballroom doors and into the courtyard. I was already waiting beside the old stone fountain. Only a few gas lanterns illuminated the night. The courtyard was silent. Weston marched toward me without slowing down. "You people have 10 seconds to explain this mess before my lawyers destroy this hotel." Then he stepped into the lantern light. His eyes met mine. He froze. Every trace of anger disappeared from his face. "Clara?" His voice was barely a whisper. "No, it can't be." For the first time in 5 years, Weston finally recognized the woman he thought he'd destroyed. Weston stood frozen. For several long seconds, he couldn't say a word. He stared at me as if he had seen a ghost. Then he forced out an awkward laugh. "Clara, what is this? Some kind of joke?" I looked at him without the slightest emotion. "No, it's business." He frowned. "You work here now?" I smiled. "I don't work here. I own Meridian Crest." The words hit him harder than any insult ever could. His face drained of color. He glanced back toward the ballroom, then at me again, as if hoping I would admit it was a lie. I didn't. Just then, Savannah stormed into the courtyard, furious. "There you are!" she shouted at Weston before turning toward me. "What kind of incompetent hotel is this? Do you have any idea who we are?" She took another step toward me. "You'll both be fired by tomorrow morning." Weston quickly grabbed her arm. His voice trembled. "Savannah, stop!" She looked at him in confusion. "What?" He swallowed hard. "She owns the resort." For the first time, all day, Savannah had nothing to say. The confidence disappeared from her face. I removed a sealed envelope from a leather folder and handed it to Weston. "What's this?" he asked. "A formal notice from Meridian Crest's legal department." He opened it with shaking hands. As he read the first page, his expression collapsed. "Our legal team has confirmed that this event was paid for using company funds falsely recorded as a corporate executive retreat. That constitutes financial misrepresentation. Under the terms of your contract, Meridian Crest is terminating your event immediately. No refund." His hands began to shake. "You can't do this. You'll be hearing from my lawyers." I remained calm. "They're welcome to contact ours. They'll also need to explain the accounting records to your company's investors." The silence that followed was almost unbearable. Weston finally understood. This wasn't revenge fueled by anger. It was the consequence of his own decisions. At that moment, the resort security director walked into the courtyard. "The guest transportation is ready, ma'am." I nodded. "Thank you." Then I looked back at Weston. "You and your guests have 10 minutes to leave the property. After that, anyone remaining will be considered trespassing." Without another word, security staff began guiding guests toward the front entrance. Most people left quietly after learning there had been a serious legal issue with the event. Others whispered among themselves, trying to understand what had happened. Near the entrance, someone started recording on a phone. Within minutes, several guests were posting videos online. The elegant wedding reception everyone expected had turned into a public disaster. Savannah argued with security until she realized no one was listening anymore. Weston didn't argue. He simply picked up his luggage and walked toward the exit with his head lowered. For the first time since I'd known him, he had nothing left to say. When the last guest left the property, the gates quietly closed behind them. The ballroom became silent again. Then, something unexpected happened. My staff began to clap. One by one, every chef, server, housekeeper, receptionist, and manager applauded, not because someone had been humiliated, but because respect had finally won. I thanked every member of my team for their professionalism and invited them into the private dining room. Instead of wasting the incredible meal that had been prepared, we shared it together. There was laughter, stories, relief. For one evening, the people who usually served everyone else were the honored guests. The following morning, videos from the failed wedding had spread across social media. The story wasn't about a ruined reception. It was about a business owner who refused to tolerate fraud or the mistreatment of her employees. Thousands of people praised Meridian Crest for standing by its staff. New reservations poured in over the following weeks, but the greatest reward had nothing to do with bookings. As I stood on my balcony watching the sun rise over the ocean, I realized something. For years, I believed success meant proving Weston wrong. I was mistaken. Success meant building a life so meaningful that his betrayal no longer defined me. Some people spend their lives chasing revenge. I chose something better. I built a future they could never take away. And in the end, that was the only victory that truly mattered.